I'm back! And this time I have a beard. That face compared to this face. That face compared to this face. Talking about movies this time, just for fun. I'm literally going to be having a drink every single time I'm doing this. This is literally just for family, friends, and anybody who wants to hear me rant about freaking movies. Enjoy. I decided for my first one, we're going to do a little bit of a retro review. A movie that came out 20 years ago this week. First movie I ever saw in theaters. The movie's frickin' Shrek. Here we go! Oh, Shrek turned 20 years old this Wednesday, May 18th of 21. 20 years old. Holy crap, do I feel old. But it is also an important movie because this is the first movie I ever saw. I saw this at a drive-in. I specifically remember sitting in the trunk of a car watching Shrek for the very first time, and that was the first movie theater experience that I remember anyway. And it is a movie about an ogre who has a swamp, and there is a Lord Farquaad of this land who exiles fairy tale creatures to Shrek's swamp. In order for Shrek to get his swamp back, he has to go on a quest to save a princess and bring her back to Farquaad. Now, this movie is actually based on a book, fun fact for you. It is a children's book. It's not very long. Basically, an ogre hangs out with a donkey and goes to get a princess and they fall in love. It's like 15 pages. So it's very loosely based on the book. The main idea of the book is what the movie is. Now, let's get into positives of this movie. First of all the characters are awesome. I love Shrek. Shrek is awesome. Mike Myers has a great voice he does for Shrek. Fun fact that you might not know, Chris Farley from Wisconsin actually was supposed to be Shrek. He actually recorded about 50% of his lines before he died. Eddie Murphy is also great as Donkey. Donkey is a character that could be super freaking annoying, but because it's Eddie Murphy's voice, for me anyway, it kind of works. There are a couple moments that he does drive me nuts, which would be one of the few small negatives I have of this movie. Cameron Diaz as Princess Fiona is phenomenal. John Lithgow just has a great voice for a character that is this kind of character that's evil and ridiculous and over the top. That's perfect for John Lithgow to be doing. Now, the animation of this movie I find phenomenal. I think it just looks so great. The cinematography of this movie, which is weird to say for an animated movie, but there are just beautiful shots of landscapes, and when they're traveling, going on this road trip to go get Princess Fiona, the movie looks beautiful. Shrek also won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature in 2002. Also got nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay based on another material. They changed that just to Best Adapted Screenplay in like the last 10 years. The Oscars is confusing sometimes. And I think it deserved both those awards. I think it's a great animated film. It did go up against Monsters, Inc., and Monsters, Inc. lost to this movie. It also was up against Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. It definitely is better than Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. I don't know if it's better than Monsters, Inc. I love Monsters, Inc. a little too much. Still worthy of that award. This movie definitely deserved a nomination for screenplay. I like the screenplay to this movie. At the end of the day, it is kind of simple, but it is a heartwarming, fun, funny film. It's got the love story in there. It's got that road trip. That I love road trip movies. Road trip movies are the absolute best. And it has a lot to say, and it's short, 90 minutes. I love that this movie combines so many different genres. At the end of the day, this is a road trip movie. Shrek has to go rescue the princess and bring her back in order to get his swamp back. But there's also more to it than that. There's also the bonding between Shrek and Donkey. Shrek hates Donkey at first. By the end, they're best pals. Fiona, his goal is just to get her to Farquaad. They end up falling in love. Like, there's a lot that happens on this road trip, and the relationships with the characters are built beautifully in this movie. Now, for the most part, this movie does hold up. One of the things that does bug me about this movie, besides Donkey sometimes getting on my nerves, the other thing is some of the humor, it doesn't always hold up. There are some moments where it's a missed joke. It's hit and miss at times. There are also some jokes that, A, are not kid appropriate in this movie, which This was back in 2001. We could get away with anything in PG movies. Nowadays, a lot of these would not hold up. Some of these jokes are 100% PG-13. And I also just found some of the jokes just didn't fully do what they were supposed to do. At the end of the day, though, I love this movie so much. First movie I ever saw in theaters. If anybody's hung out with me at all, they'll know that I quote this movie a lot. And I mean a lot. I also think this movie really tries hard to put in some life lessons about loving yourself and not looking on the outside but looking on the inside, and respecting yourself. I don't think these life lessons are necessarily hit home the way they should be. I think that it does a decent enough job with it that I can still respect the story and love the movie. At the end of the day, I wish their little life lessons about loving yourself, respecting yourself, and that those little lessons that are put into this movie, I wish they had been executed just a teeny tiny bit better than what they were. Especially since we're watching a kid's movie, and a kid watching this probably not going to get the full-fledged effect that it's looking to give. This movie also has an amazing soundtrack. Baha Men, Smash Mouth, Proclaimers, Eels. I feel like I'm mixing a whole bunch, but there are so many great songs in this movie. The soundtrack is phenomenal. In the end, I really do love this movie. I think this is a classic animated film. Holds a special place in my heart. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. So that is my first movie review of the reboot of this channel. If you would like to request movies for me to review, please send them in the comments. Not the comics. Comics are very different than the comments.